Hello, welcome to the Sovereign Magazine show, a transformational experience where conscious conversations meet embodied wisdom. Each episode invites visionary healers, thought leaders, and change makers to share their journeys of awakening, offering listeners practical tools and soul stirring insights to reclaim their inner authority. Today, we have on Dr. Jeanine L. Williams again as we are going on our path of ancestral reconnection. It is a sacred year-long journey into our lineage, intuition, healing, and embodied remembrance. If you missed our first episode on remembering who you are beneath it all, definitely go check it out. Today, we are talking about tending the ancestral bond, and we are in our full authenticity today. We are feeling all the feels, and we are going to just really lean into who we are, as some tears might come out from either one of us. But why don't we have you introduce yourself, Dr. Jeanine, and then we can dive into what it means to tend to our ancestral bonds.
Absolutely. I am so excited to be here again today on this year-long journey. This is such sacred and beautiful work, and I always feel so honored to be called to it. And so I'm Jeanine Williams. I am an ancestral medicine woman. I'm a spiritual herbalist and an intuitive guide, and I work with souls who are looking to reconnect and remember, and really just recalibrate ancestrally. And as Nicole mentioned, we're in our authentic selves today. And so the work that I do this is in no way theoretical. This is lived, real, raw, authentic. And I am on my journey, and I'm called to co-journey with others, sometimes in short containers, sometimes in long containers. Um, but all of it is aligned, all of it is sacred. So yes. Mhm.
Yeah. So, how are you leaning into tending to your ancestral bonds today? I know before we were chatting, I checked in with you to say, do we need to postpone? Because I don't want to say the true Janine energy. I'll just say the regularly met Janine energy was not there, and you had a different energy today. And I always want to make sure that we are moving forward in aligned ways. And you said, let me sit and tap into this. And you said, yes, I'm feeling really called to be in my authenticity today for people to see the real and raw version of this. And so, why don't you share as much as you would like to, no obligation, and just share where we're coming from today.
Yes, absolutely. So, ah, today. So I had shared on threads on my on social media on Sunday night that I Sunday marked a closing of a very intense spiritual and ancestral initiation for me. I have been um, most intentionally for months working through a mother wound, which is a very familiar kind of ancestral wounding that so many of us have. And um, I have a very present mother. And so I'm feeling that to say that even we can carry a mother wound, even if we have a very present, loving, you know, affirming mother, because the mother wound is not necessarily about that, current relationship. It is something that lives in our lineage, and it shows up in how um, our ability to receive, our ability to ask for help, our ability to accept love, the ways in which we show love. And so today, while that portal has closed and a lot of that wounding has been healed, there is this integration of that work that has to happen. And today it is showing up in my relationship with my daughter.
Mm.
Um, and in the ways that the mother wound has been transmitted to her, and of no intentional doing of my own. But when that's something it's so important to understand, when something is in your lineage, it can be it is passed on um unknowingly. And so some of our, and then my daughter's also a teenager, so some of that too. She's 17 and she's coming into her own. Um, and so some of the ways that she interacts with me, I have to understand isn't necessarily, I'll ask her like, what's wrong? And she's like, I don't know. And I'm usually like, oh, that's a cop out. But today it was like, she probably doesn't. She may not be consciously aware of it because of, this thing, it lies in our DNA and our blood memory and our bodies and our wombs, we carry it and we don't even recognize the pattern. And so tending to the ancestral bond, why is it important to have an ancestral practice, an ancestral connection, is to understand what is going on. And so today it's been challenging. And part of what I'm able to do, having this ancestral bond, is to lean in. To lean in. This morning, I told my ancestors, I need you close today. I need you extra close. I know that I'm called to trust, but it doesn't feel safe today. So I need you to walk with me extra close. I need you to show me and give me reassurance that at some point I won't need and that I don't always need, but today I need it. And I called on my female, my maternal lineage in particular, because that's how the mother moon travels. And so today, that is how I'm tending to it. I am telling them what I need, which is all that's part of the mother wound, not being able to really speak that up, not wanting to take up that space, not wanting to ask for what we need. And so I'm asking for what I need in this realm. And I'm also asking for what I need in the ancestral realm. So that's how it's
Mm,
showing up for me today.
mm. I love this so much because you're putting words to something that sometimes doesn't have words. Like my daughter, who's 14, often says, I don't know, because her feelings she can't put into words. And I love that you said it's in our DNA and you can feel it. And I truly believe that sometimes we can just feel it, right? It's almost like when you walk into a dark alley, you don't maybe see the danger, but you can feel it. It's the same type of,
Yes.
intuition or inner knowing. And I was on a call earlier today, and they were talking about how as women, we're taught so many things, whether we want it or not, right? We're taught to be the good girl or the caretaker or whatever the label may be. And I think as we mother and as we parent,
Mhm.
we often take on roles, especially if you're a single parent, that is
Yeah.
more, um, I don't want to say dominating, but more present
Mhm.
than at other times. And as our children are growing up and closer to quote unquote leaving the nest, we have to readjust and recalibrate to the conversations and the level at which they need us. And we know that they do, but they're pulling away. And so there's this push-pull relationship right now. And so calling upon your ancestors and tending to them, because I always think about when I think of ancestors, I think of tribes, right? And I think of like red tents and being together and going to talk to the wise woman or the oldest matriarch. And like, this is what I imagine when I think of it. But we don't have that, right? We just have you and your daughter, or me and my daughter, or I can maybe talk to my husband's mom, my mother-in-law. But beyond that, we might not have very many people we can draw upon their wisdom. But I did love that you shared that you called upon them. So I'd love to learn more about this, how we can do that, because as we are more of an individualistic society now more than ever, calling upon and tending to these relationships might be foreign to many of us.
Mhm. Yeah, so it's, for me, the my experience and when I work with my clients or my co-journeyers, it is really as simple as calling. It is simple as this morning when I woke up and I just expressed what I need. Um, I a l- I always like to start with who do you know, right? And I am fortunate to know I know my father's mother, I know my mother's mother, I know both of my mother's grandmothers, I was alive and have very faint but memories of my mother's maternal great grandmother, so so those are familiar um people to me. Like I had relationship with them. I know them. They cared for me and loved me. And so to call on them for their wisdom and their energy is very natural to me. As if they were here. I call on them. I have pictures of them, my paternal grandmother's right there over my head. My mother's next to her. But it's as simple as calling on them. Um, because they're no longer here physically, like their energy, their essence, their spirit,
Mhm.
it never fades. It never leaves us. It's different. It shifts, but it never leaves it, and for those of us who are mothers, right? And we know, and those of us who we mother in so many different ways, but for those of us who have carried a child in our wombs, who that's been our mother experience. And we know how much we feel them, we talk to them, we plan them, before we ever come face to face. How they move, all of that energy, right, is very present.
Mhm.
And we
Mhm.
build this bond with them. And even if our love is imperfect, we love them from the start. I can't ever imagine that once I transition, right? Because I see birth in the same way as that. It's just a transition. You come in and you flow out. I can't imagine my flow out will now leave my three children without I will never not love my energetically. My love,
Mhm.
my energy will always surround them. And we
Mhm.
do ourselves a disservice when we don't allow that for those who have transitioned. And
Mhm.
we don't renegotiate those relationships or reclaim those relationships, although we are now physically separated.
Mhm.
And so I always start with who do you know? And then if you don't know, or maybe you didn't have the kind of relationship with those, your blood relatives in your life, Earth is mother. Earth is an ancestor. Animal energy, whatever calls to you. And if you get quiet enough, there's always something. We always have this ancestral sensibility. It does not matter who you knew and how, it doesn't matter. We are
Mhm.
vast. Our lineages are vast. Our souls are vast. And
Mhm.
so energy, land, all of those things are also ancestors. And so calling out to whatever resonates with you. That's how you tend to it.
Yeah.
It's so simple, yet so profound, yet so amazing, yet so expansive, yet so divine. And when we make it more than it needs to be, we make it something that we got to do more work, oh, we got to earn it, or no. Listen to those
Mhm.
ancestral whispers. They are always present. And
Mhm.
lean in and speak
I,
back.
I truly, truly believe this wholeheartedly. And I'm jealous because I don't know any of my great grandparents. I only knew my grandparents on my paternal side, my biological mother. I didn't know growing up, so I didn't know that side. I did find their names through some ancestry work. And I would love to continue that work because it's fascinating. I worked with a company that was a nonprofit, and they helped me through DNA contact them because we couldn't find them. Anyway,
Yeah.
long story short, I'd love to continue that path because
Mhm.
she said that their path just kind of went dry. They like dropped off the face of this earth. So someday when I have more time on my hands, I'm going to find out more about that because I've heard so many stories about my biological mother and how she was abandoned and orphaned at 9. I don't know if that story is true or not, but it rings true for me in how my biological mother gave me and my brother up as well. And I thought about that story, if you will, when my daughter was 6 months old. And she was so colicky. She had so many allergies, and we didn't know. And I'm rocking her, and she's 6 months old, and it's in the middle of the night. And I'm looking at her going, how could my mother have given me up, right? I'm like not understanding as much as my daughter's going crazy, driving me crazy, lack of sleep, all of this. How could she give me up? Well, I since then have had past life regression sessions and all of this and psychic readings. And my biological mother came through because she and my father have both crossed over.
Mhm.
Anyway, she came through and she said, I'm so sorry. I didn't know any better. I didn't have any social support systems. I didn't know how to mother because I was not mothered. And so that was all the confirmation that I needed to let that go. And I have parented my daughter differently than I was parented because of that lack of bond, if you will, that I had with my biological mother since she left when I was so young. My daughter now looks at the stretch marks on my belly and she's like, I did that. I'm so sorry, mom. But I'm like, no, because you're always with me, right? You're always a piece of me. And she has this little, I say it's a heart. She says it's a duck foot on her leg. She's had it since she was a baby. And it's like a little birthmark. And so I say she has a piece of me, and no matter where we are, we'll always be together, right? And that bond will never be broken, but yet they challenge our souls so deeply. And my husband and I say so often that we are better people after becoming parents. And we have grown more than we could have ever grown. However, I feel like the missing puzzle piece has been this. I never thought about calling upon my ancestors, and I'm getting a little weepy now, that I didn't know. I always call upon my father, and my father and I were very close. I always call upon him, and I do have spirit guides. And in a session recently, one of my spirit guides said I need to ask more questions. So I need to find out who these people are because perhaps they're my ancestors. And I'm going to do that work because I think that even if we didn't know them in this earthly realm, there is an essence of them that lives in our DNA, right? They always say, like, oh, you're just like so and so, right? Or like in my family, my maiden name is Stillwell. You have this Stillwell stubbornness, or, the Stillwell stretch is what they also call it, right? There's all these things, but how far back does that go? And um, I feel so connected to this subject today because I feel so connected to my ancestors in my DNA, but I also feel connected to my soul ancestors. I know I was in Egypt. I've been told in past life regressions, I'm so connected to Egypt. I love Egypt. Everything about Egypt, I want to go there. So there's this other element beyond just our lineage. So my question to you is have you had any experience with like our souls, ancestors, and all of that? And what's your experience with that?
So I would say a lot like that has come through me like with place, like Bermuda. Bermuda, the waters of Bermuda, like is like that is an ancestral as in that I have more recently realized that I do have some um human connection, some human ties there. Um, but as a place, like when I went there, and still when I go, it is the second I see, when you're flying over, and Bermuda's only 22 square miles, it just pops up. You're flying over the Atlantic Ocean, and then all of a sudden, it's like there's land there. And the second I see it, my eyes tear up. Now, I have been to Bermuda now, oh my goodness, over 20 times, and it happens every time. It is something when I'm going through um deep initiations, like this kind of mother wound, real, like the real immersion of it. I will get summoned to Bermuda. Like I will have to go. Um, and so yes, that's a space for me there. I was working with a quantum healer, and he did a hypnosis, like kind of, took me through hypnosis again to kind of get to the root of the wounding. And during that, I was in Bermuda. I was I could, I was there. Um, so yes, that is a place that feels um a soul ancestor for me. Yeah,
Mm,
yeah,
I love this.
yeah. Yes, yes, yes.
It, it's so much more expansive and vast
Mhm.
than I had ever imagined. And I always love to leave our listeners and viewers with a takeaway. And so, what is one practice besides just asking and calling upon them? Do you use any herbs or tinctures or journaling or anything like that to really help yourself connect in?
I do. I would say what just came to me is our dream space.
Yeah.
That
Mhm.
is when a client initially comes, that's one of the first questions I ask. How's your sleep? Do you dream? Because we got to get you dreaming. And so having um, a practice of winding down and preparing yourself for sleep, for asking and opening yourself for ancestral whispers in the dream space, like that's a big one. And then when you wake up in the morning, write down anything and everything you can remember from your dreams, even if all you can remember is how you felt, if it's piecemeal, all of that. Write it down, because over time it'll start making, it'll be sometimes months later. And all of a sudden, I'm like, oh my God, I had a dream about. Then I got to go back to my dream journal. So that's it. You could even, I also make dream pillows, and anyone can make a dream pillow. It's mugwort with lavender. Put that in a sachet under your pillow. And that is like mugwort is good for opening up that space and allowing for lucid dreaming. Lavender is peaceful and protective. And so that, those two work together. You can drink that as a tea as well, but you don't even have to ingest it for it to be to be powerful. So yeah, that's what I would be really connecting with your dream space.
Oh, I love this so much because I'm so connected to my dreams. This is actually where my father meets me the most in his true form. I
Yes.
believe he talks to me as my spirit team, but a lot of my ancestors, the ones that I did know, talk to me in my dreams, like full-on conversations we have.
Yes.
And so I
Yes.
love that you mentioned that because I kind of forgot about that. So I'm actually going to start doing some dream journaling because
Yeah.
I do believe I get a lot of messages in there that I may not be connecting. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if you are interested in this topic, you can definitely connect with Jeanine. She is in our community, community.sovereign-magazine.com. If you have any questions for her, all her details will be in the show notes as well. And next time, we're going to be talking about clearing what no longer belongs. So stick around for the show, like, share, subscribe, comment below. It helps us reach more people. All right, we will see you on the next one. Thank you so much for being here today.
Absolutely. Thank you.